My apologies. I forgot to turn on my mic. So, hi guys. I am Aaron. I am the creator of Lime and Lemon. I also do the voice of Seesaw for anybody who doesn't know. Seesaw is the bird. You know, the one that talks like this. So, I do that. I also compose pretty much all of the music for Lime and Lemon. I've started to branch out a little bit, and I have one of my cousins now working on some of the music as well for the series. But I primarily am the one who writes the music, so the stuff you just heard for the past 10 minutes, that was me, and I've done all the stuff before that as well. So, a little bit about our group before we get started with the Q&A. We are a team of about 12 people. We've been around since December of 2023. And what we do primarily is we create mainly comics, a little bit of animations. But all of that stuff is telling one cohesive story, and that is the story of Lime and Lemon. Lime and Lemon is about two friends who, after work, get together at their favorite bookstore. They play board games, have a good time, and then there's also a little bit of mystery behind it as well. So some of those characters, we don't really know their backstories, we don't know their past, we don't know what has led them up to this point. And so it is a really kind of, there's a mystery element to it, but then there's also just a lot of fun, right? Fun and games. That's the whole idea of Lime and Lemon. So as you are watching the Q&A, I invite you guys to actively ask questions. I am paying attention to the chat, and I am watching it. So if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask. We do have a couple of questions teed up, which come from our community posts about the Q&A. We said that if you want to post questions in advance, so that way we have a couple to get the ball rolling, we will take your questions in advance. And so we have one set of questions that we got to start with. So the first set of questions, let me pull it up here. Okay. It looks like the Spotify might be a little bit overpowering. So I do have the tracks playing right now. I did not write. These are Spotify tracks. It is just Spotify lo-fi. It's to keep the vibe a little mellow, provide some background music, so that way it's not just me talking. But let's go to these first questions here. No, that's not a question. There we go. Okay. This is some of my these are some of my favorite questions. So I'm gonna do the voice too. See if you recognize where these questions are from. Do you wear wigs? No, I don't wear wigs. Will you wear wigs? Maybe. Have you worn wigs? I have not worn wigs. When will you wear wigs? They were out of order, but they were asked out of order. So if you don't know where those questions come from, that was clearly a joke. Those questions come from an interview of Elijah Wood in Lord of the Rings. It was a joke interview back when Lord of the Rings was popular. And it's a really funny sketch. If you've not seen that sketch, you definitely should go ahead and just look that up after you're done with the stream. You can find it pretty easily, I'm sure, if you just like type in like Elijah Wood fake interview or something like that, you can find it. It's a funny video. So that was one set of questions. We did have another thing of questions come in a little early, so I'm going to pull that one up. I remember what it says, but I want to ask it the way it was read. Or not read, sent. know. I'm so very organized, am I not? Okay. No, that's not it. Okay. Let's see. All right. So the next question was, can I be a voice in the show? And I would broaden this question out to, how can I become a voice in the show if I wanted to, right? What sort of things are required? What sort of casting do we do? Right now, our auditions are closed, so there is not currently a space for anyone to be voicing stuff in the show right now. But I will say this, our auditions open and close pretty much annually to an extent, not like annually on the dot. It's not like every June we open up and we have auditions. But we do regularly, as we get into new seasons, we try to cast additional characters. And so while we're working on season 2 right now, we've already done all of our casting for season 2. So there's no way in for season 2. But in the future, right, as we continue to open up casting and do that sort of stuff, basically what we're looking for is we are looking for people who have, one, you gotta have the voice that we want, right? And the only way we're gonna know is if you actually send us audition tapes. It's funny, I've had people apply or audition. Apply is probably actually a more accurate word. Apply to be like voice actors in the show, but they didn't send audition tapes. It was like, I want to be a voice. Okay, send your voice work. No. I don't understand how you want to be a voice actor and you don't have anything to give me to show your work, okay? I'll be honest, when we were casting for Lime and Lemon, I'm looking more so, can you provide the voice that I want? Can I have a reasonable amount of your attention and time? Right, whatever is necessary for the character. Our main characters are cast, so I already have the people who I'm going to have tons of time and tons of attention given. But hi, Teddy. If you want to be a voice in the show, we first off watch for the auditions. I'm a lurk. Okay, you can lurk. That's good. First off, yeah, wait for the auditions to open. We will post when there's auditions open. 2, have a portfolio ready. Portfolio can mainly be anything that you can provide that's voice work and stuff like that. And then lastly, hope and pray, right? We don't get tons of auditions, so I pretty much do see every single audition. And I sift through it, and it's a process. Sometimes it's a little cringe, to be honest. Some people are a little cringe. But, you know, I do listen to everyone's auditions. I usually provide pretty decent feedback. You will know fairly quickly if you do or don't get a part, because I'm very quick to respond on that stuff. And then, yeah, that's basically it, right? Wait for auditions to open, send your portfolio, and we'll tell you, okay? There's no auditions open right now. So, unfortunately, you cannot be a voice in the show as of this moment. Keep hoping, keep dreaming, and keep watching. Since those are primarily the questions that I have seen so far, again, those who are watching, you are welcome to ask a question at any time in the chat, and I will answer it. Let's talk about maybe a little more in depth of the audition process, and specifically voice acting in general, right? Because one of the roles that I take on in this series is I am a voice actor myself, right? So you want to get into voice acting, okay? And Lime and Lemon you see as a good startup gig, which, to be honest, we are a startup gig, right? We're not a feature-length film that hires all the best actors. We're not. So if you want to get your start in voice acting and you want to apply for, auditions when they open up with Lime and Lemon, best thing you can do, right? I'm going to make the assumption this is your first ever voice acting gig. Okay, get used to reading stuff with lots of emotion. Okay, I think the problem with people who want to be actors who don't ever take like an acting course or something like that is they don't really understand how much acting is emphasis on words and how much of acting is being able to really toy with the emotion of your voice, right? So, not even doing different voices right now, right? Like, you got to know what it sounds like to be happy, to be sad, right? So, if I'm happy, I'm going to be talking really upbeat, right? And maybe I'm not this kind of happy, maybe I'm just this kind of happy, right? And so that's more casual and maybe a little bit of fun, and there's some high and there's some low, right? And you become a little bit more self-aware of yourself. And then when you're angry, you want to make sure that you know when you're like actually acting frustrated and how the cadence is when you're frustrated. And if you want to get more frustrated, then you have to be able to get vocal and you have to be able to get loud, right? And I think a lot of people are also scared of getting loud. Me, I am not scared of getting loud, at least right now, because I don't have people around me that I have to worry about that. If it were 12 o'clock at night and people were asleep, I might care. Might care about getting loud. But right now, I can be as loud as I want. And that being able to be loud is another good skill to have when you're just starting out voice acting. One thing, if you ever take theater, one thing you would know from theater is a director would probably, this is the criticism I always hear or heard when I was in theater, and I wasn't even an actor in theater, but I would hear directors yell this all the time: project, okay? What they meant is project your voice, get it out there, fill a space, okay? So when you're voice acting, you can't talk like this, okay? You can't be really quiet because you might not have a good enough mic, or it might be really hard to hear, and then me as an audio engineer has to fix that. And as you can already tell probably right now, it is really, really hard for you to hear me as opposed to when I'm talking like this, right? Because now my voice is projecting and you can actually hear what I'm saying, and maybe I'm not angry, maybe I'm just speaking normally, but I'm projecting, so you know you can hear me. You can hear me, right? So that's another thing. Make sure that you're projecting. Just, it's a little different than theater in the sense that you don't need to fill a room, but you do need to fill your microphone. So make sure you're projecting. Another thing, right? So you learn self-awareness of tone and pitch, right? Just for normal voices, just to be able to do normal things. Now you can start playing with your voice, okay? Part of the fun of voice acting is that you don't have to look like the thing that you are voicing, right? I don't know how many times people have, hey, Stormy. I don't know how many times, if you've ever watched a movie before, where you're like, huh, that voice actor sounds really good. I wonder what he's in. And then you go and find the voice actor's IMDb page and you see the picture of the voice actor. And you're like, who is that? That guy voices this? What? Right? Because they don't have to sound like the thing that they're voice acting, right? So you can play with your voice, and it's really fun to play with your voice too, right? Learn the highs and lows of your voice. What can you do? What can't you do, right? Because I promise you, I would have not found Seesaw if I didn't play around, right? Seesaw actually came from a different character that I was trying to voice for a different thing I was doing, and that character sounded like this, and he didn't really have a scratchy voice, but it kind of sounded like a, I don't know, it sounded like a squeaky wheel, right? This is like a squeaky wheel voice. It's not very pleasant, and then what I did for Seesaw is I took that voice that I already knew that I could do, and then I kind of really forced the air through it and purposely made it crack, so that way it kind of sounded like a screeching sound, and that's how I got Seesaw. And why does Seesaw have a screeching sound in his voice? Because he's a seagull, right? That's the idea. So that's where I came up with Seesaw, and you just do stuff like that. Right? And I've also voiced a couple other characters too, just like really side characters in the show. So season 1, there's a tree, and I was the voice of the tree, and I think I did use actually a little bit of a pitch shifter to make my voice deeper on that one, but all I did was I'm trying to remember the line. What was the line? It's like something like I can't remember the line, but like it was like a deep old man voice, and you had to be very deep, and it's like almost kind of like Gandalf in a way. Bilbo Baggins. That's definitely, I could do a better Ian McKellen if I gave myself some time and practice. But Bilbo Baggins. I love Lord of the Rings. But yeah, play with your voice, right? Be able to get into the deep depths. Get into the deep depths of your voice. And then also, right, I was just doing female Seesaw, and I was working with our Lyme voice actress, Thea, and we were talking about doing, like, female voices. And so I was working on female voices earlier. And we would do something like this, and this was my female voice. This wasn't for Seesaw. This was just a female voice to try and do a female voice. I think I could do it a little bit better, but this is kind of what I came up with when I was doing that. It's a little squeaky. I think I need to fix it just a tiny bit. I'm forcing a little too hard, but this is a voice that I can do too, right? And that's a very different voice than the other voices that I was doing. And so, just know your range. Learn your range. All these are great tips. I think the last thing I would say if you're trying to get into voice acting is think about learning, learn how to do audio work, okay? And like not like be like a professional sound editor, but understand miking, right? So there's different ways to position your mic, right? You can purposely position your mic really close to your mouth so that you can get a whisper, right? Or the, like the ASMR feel, right? Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that because I'm grossing myself out. But you get the idea, right? So like the really deep, intimate feel with your mic. And then also, right, if you're shouting, sometimes you actually want to be further away from your mic. And so, in order to shout, you want to be further away from your mic. The problem with that is you got to make sure you don't have an echoey space. Because if you have an echoey space, then it is very difficult to make sure that it's going to sound good. So also be mindful of your space, right? I think that's part of audio engineering, is knowing the place that you are. Is it echoey? Is it not echoey? The only way you're going to find out is if you record yourself and then listen to the recording and just hear how sound is moving, right? Because if you can hear kind of a little bit of a reverb that's coming from just your recording, it's like, I need to make my space a little more mute. So you want to focus on that. You want to think about that. Learn miking, learn gain, okay? Difference between gain and volume. Learn how to, you know what? Play with mods, right? I said just a while ago, I used a pitch shifter to make my voice a little deeper. I don't have anything against voice modulation or modification with programs. I think that's actually, there are some characters that demand it. Now, I wouldn't get heavily over-reliant on programs. I think the more you can do with your natural voice, the better it sounds. But, like, if you're trying to voice something like a General Grievous, right? General Grievous, if you listen to actually the audio before it's, like, run through the filter, it's like, General Kenobi! Like, it's so different. So, you can play with mods, but be able to do a lot with your own voice first. If you can do a lot with your own voice, then mods can only amplify your already stellar ability. And then for a show like Lime and Lemon, again, I as a person, I like working with people and teaching them and helping them through things. And so, just as a director, I'm okay if you're not 100% the best at doing a voice. As long as you're close and you can be taught and you can work with that, I'm good with that. So I think that's all the tips. I've exhausted my tips on voice acting. If there are any questions that anyone has who's currently watching the stream, by all means ask them. I am going to take a drink because I am tired already of talking. Doing all of that was a lot of work already. We're only 20 minutes in. Don't make me come up with my own questions. That would just be sad. That would be sad. Literally, ask me anything. I am pretty much an open book. Pretty much. Not gonna disclose lore secrets. I would at least like this stream to last an hour, so I will come up with my own questions for an hour if I have to. It's part of improv. That's another good thing as a voice actor. Get used to improv. Actually, just in acting in general, get used to improv. Because the better improv ability you have, the more versatile you can be. I think some people's favorite things in films tend to be improv, right? I can't tell you how many times I've watched like behind the scenes videos where it's like, that was not in the script, and they kept it, right? So the ability to improv is really important. In Lime and Lemon, the ability to improv is kind of cut back a little bit because we tend to write the comics as like comic bubbles, and so when we're voicing the comics, you have to stick to what was in the comic bubble. And that unfortunately kills improv, which is sad. But it happens. It happens. So, yeah. Alright. I'm going to generate my own question here in a second. If I don't see anybody ask anything. Or, you know what? I could dig through the comments of other videos and find questions that way. Because I know I've been asked questions before. You know what? Next time I see somebody respond in chat, I'm going to tell them that they got to pay the question toll. They got to ask a question. You must pay the question tax. Hi, Tanya. You got a question for me? You got a question for me? I just spent 20 minutes talking about voice acting. Help me out here. Ask me anything. How was my day? I could exhaust 20 minutes on how my day was. Not that anyone should care, but I can. I've set aside my time for that. Nope, that's not a question. Questions? I'm digging for questions right now. Hi, Tawny. My ask hasn't, it's not different. I'm asking you if you have any questions. You can still ask me questions. You're still allowed to ask me questions. How lovely, says one commenter. Why was Seesaw lurking their identities? If I may interpret, I'm gonna guess that Seesaw lurking their identities means, like, looking up and, like, checking on them in the Office of Public Records. Assuming that that's what you mean by that, why was Seesaw looking up their identities? That's a great question. Well, first off, I mean, he makes it very plain and obvious, at least at the start, why he's looking at their identities. Because he's trying to make his game more immersive, right? So that's his initial premise, and it's like, it's innocent enough, albeit weird, because Seesaw's weird. And I mean, that's kind of the thing about his character, right? Is that Seesaw tries a little too hard to be interesting, or to be good at what he's doing, right? So in that instance, he's trying to be a good DM for Caves and Cryptids. He's trying to really, like, he's trying to create a fun experience, right, for Lime and Lemon. And so in his mind, right, if Lime and Lemon are maybe getting a little bit bored, right, with certain things, or he just wants to up the ante of the game, he wants to make it more interesting, well, Seesaw is like, well, how can I make this more interesting, right? How can I make this more interesting? Sorry, because I can do the voice. And then kind of comes up with the idea, like, ooh, what if I go and find public records on them and just, like, tie up the public records, right? And to help you figure out how Seesaw's mind is working, because some people really like, ew, okay? It is public records. These are things that you can look up on other people, okay? It is the equivalent of looking at your friends' posts on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, right? And you include that in your lore. Is it a little weird? Sure. But, you know, it's just like digging through people's posts on Facebook or Twitter. And, you know, as creepy as, like, it seems to be, like, going and looking up people's records, do we not all have at least, like, one or two people that we've done that to at some point? You know, sometimes I get curious about a person, and I do just kind of, like, look up information on them just to get to kind of know who they are. But you can easily rebuttal and say, dude, that's creepy. And you're absolutely right, but that's the internet. The internet is creepy. And I don't tend to look up a ton of information on people. It's more like, what are your interests? You know, do you like movies? I like movies. So, right? And Lime like, understandably gets a little bothered by that because it is creepy, right? Like, Seesaw's not doing anything that I think a lot of people in the internet age haven't done. But, like, Lime is definitely calling him out on it and saying, bro, that's creepy. Don't look up my information. We don't know each other that well. You shouldn't have my Facebook page. Lime doesn't have a Facebook page. But if she did, right? You shouldn't be looking me up like that. That's weird, right? So you got to be careful about what you post on the internet, kids. But that's the initial reason, right? And then in season 2, Seesaw goes digging specifically into Lemon. I think it's okay to type stuff. Hey, you know what? Do it. If you got a question, ask it, and I'll attack it after this one. So, season 2, he starts looking up stuff on Lemon specifically, right? He's not digging into Lime anymore. He's learned his lesson there. He even gets tased for calling her Margaret. So, don't call Lime Margaret. But Lemon has now become a curiosity to him, right? And to be honest, it's a curiosity to Lime too. Lime digging into Lemon's background is somewhat of like a temptation, right? So Lime calls him out, right? Lime calls Seesaw out originally on like, dude, why are you doing this? This is weird. Seesaw's like, yeah, I'm sorry. However, your best friend isn't this interesting. And Lime starts to get sucked into that ew kind of behavior. She gets sucked into the ick, right? And so how is Lemon gonna deal with the ick? Or how's Lime gonna deal with the ick, right? And also, what is Lemon hiding, right? Because now that we're starting to actually pull that out, we're curious too. What is Lemon hiding? Wait, what information is missing? Sorry, I'm trying to get my hands in the camera here. What information? Now that I can't answer yet. But that's the idea. My friends are asking if Steven's gonna get a centered episode. So this is an interesting question because first off we have to define episode. Is an episode in this instance a comic? Right? If it is, then one could argue that Steven had 4 comics centered around him. Because even though it's Lime and Lemon, right, Steven was kind of the central character of the 4. And Steven's definitely going to return. I think that much should be obvious. We're going to see the return of Steven. Fairly soon, actually. At least in the pages that are being released. The dubs, it takes a little longer. But we are going to see the return of Steven pretty soon. Steven is going to be a reoccurring character beyond season 2. And now, if we're talking about Steven-centered episode as in an episode where of the episode, Lime and Lemon are not the main characters, but it is, in fact, Steven. Steven who is our main character. Then, I would say probably not soon, but I would not rule it out. And why probably not soon? Okay? Because 1, Steven is a side character. 2, a Steven-centered episode is going to reveal a lot about the character, which can be more fun to reveal slowly over time by making him off to the side. Like, I mean, think about this from like a writer's perspective, right? If you want to build tension and suspense, right? You set aside the really interesting parts and you slowly put them into other episodes as opposed to center an episode all around the big interesting part. Now, that said, right, tends to be when you have a really interesting character with a bunch of lore that's been leaked out over time, eventually they do get their own episode, right, where it's kind of like the big reveal episode where we get to see all of the pieces come together, right? And so will we have an episode where all the pieces come together for Steven? Sure, why not? But he's a very new character. There's still a lot we don't know about him that we could know about him without having to do a Steven-centered episode. And so, while I would not rule it out, I would also say, probably not soon. Very new character, lots of possibilities, lots of things we don't know, lots of things that we could know. So, it'll be a while. But I like Steven. He's definitely going to return. Steven is a fun character. And I look forward to working with him more. So I would say things are going to start out slow for Steven, but he'll get included. I'm not going to forget about him. Yeah. So, that's those two questions. Go ahead, ask me anything else. I like Steven. I know some questions that I have been asked, and I can dig through questions that I've been asked, personally, because I'm starting to. You guys are getting my gears turning. I'm starting to think about them. I am gonna... What time is it right now? I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes. We'll give it to 9:40. And at 9:40, they're asking if there's a singing episode. A musical. You want a musical episode, eh? Okay. What I would say to that: musicals are a lot of work. If you are hoping that there's a musical episode soon, like in a whole episode, you're gonna be waiting for a while. But if you want to see Lime and Lemon sing, then you might not have to wait quite as long. Because I'm trying to decide how much I want to. We, as part of the 1,000 subscribers, thank you, we have decided that Lime and Lemon will sing a thing. A thing. It could be Happy Birthday, you don't know. They will sing a thing. It's not going to be a musical. It's not going to be tied to an episode. But they will sing a thing. Because the nice thing is that Lime's voice actress, Lemon's voice actor are definitely... they have the ability to sing. And they more or less have the ability to sing in character. So, yeah, we have the vocal ability to do it. Problem is, writing all the music. So, yeah. What else? Man. I should have boosted the streaming post on Instagram Might have been smart. Okay. So, here's a question I was asked a couple nights ago. What's going on with the lime, lemon, and perhaps even seesaw love triangle? So this was interesting because this was actually the first time I'd heard this one. So, this person who asked me this was under the impression that there is a love triangle being formed between lime, lemon, and seesaw. The thought was that lemon likes lime, but seesaw also likes lime. And the reasoning behind seesaw liking lime, like the idea there, was that because like seesaw apologizes with like a heart and flowers, and Theo, I already answered your do you wear wigs question, by the way. That was how we started stream. That was a fun start to stream. I appreciate those questions. I even did the voice, or I tried to. Do you wear wigs? Have you worn wigs? Yeah. So I got you. I got you. But so I'm mad I missed that. I'm sorry. Should have been here. So anyway, the whole lime, lemon, seesaw love triangle thing. So the idea was seesaw like apologizes to lime, not by just saying I'm sorry, but like brings a box of chocolates, brings a balloon, right? A cute little balloon. And then he starts really kind of like starting to bug lime personally, right? He gets into lime's personal space. And so does seesaw like lime? And then does lemon like lime, right? Because then we also have like the very obvious stuff where it's like lime's like, great, I got my date for tonight. And then lemon's like, wait, what? And also at the end of comic 37, right? Like lime's like, man, I really like it just being the two of us. And lemon like blushes. And so like there's multiple little elements there, right? That suggest that lemon likes lime, that seesaw likes lime. And so what's all that about? So, I am willing to debunk this, at least half of it. Seesaw and lime is not necessarily meant to be a romantic connection. Now, if you want to disagree with me, I'm okay with that. Have your fun. But there is something else going on with lemon or lime and seesaw, right? Seesaw is, as we established earlier, more interested on trying to figure out this information about lemon. And he's inviting lime into the mix, partly because this is lime's friend, partly because he doesn't seem to like lemon for some reason. We don't really know why. And yeah, he's got like this kind of curiosity thing going. And so yeah, it's not that deep with seesaw and lime. Lemon, happen in Lyme, however, yeah, you might want to keep an eye on that. There's definitely something happening there. And yeah, I mean, without revealing too much, because I think by the time we get to the end of season 2, a lot more will be clear. It'll be a little easier to answer that question. But keep an eye on that, because that it's something. But what it is, you'll see. What comic are we even on right now? What was the last comic released? Can I look that up? By the way, for those of you who don't know, we plan out all the releases of the comics in advance. So I tend to forget what comic we're on that we've already released to the public. So I'm also trying not to say more than what's been released. Yeah, that's what I thought. So the most recent comic is comic 37, Treasure Hunt. And this is a wonderful comic. Right, we see Lemon blush. It's adorable. It's adorable. So, and that's as far as we've gotten in the story so far. Monday, we're gonna get a little more of that. No, we're not. Next Monday, we're gonna get a little more of that. This Monday, the mumbling was intentional. Okay. Well, now I've addressed that. Other questions. No, I don't wear wigs, by the way. Just to recap on that. I don't wear wigs. I have not worn wigs. Maybe I'll wear wigs. Maybe. What's the square root of 49? Can we... 7. Can we please stick to lemon questions, please? I had to decide if I was going to even answer that. Even put the mental capacity to it. I was like, it's just 7. If you ask me the square root of pi, I'm not answering. I'm not answering the square root of pi. I'm sorry. You can Google that. Jeez. Hello, Thea. Ah, sad. What, are you sad that I won't answer the square root of pi? I'm sorry, I'm not your math teacher or math tutor. Anyway, I'm waiting on questions. Anything about the series? No math homework. Almost 4 a.m., yet here I am. If this isn't workplace cementment? Cementment? I don't know what it is. What is? I don't know what cementment is. There's a workplace cementment. commitment. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. By the way, questions about the series can be things like, how many comics have you done? What are your thoughts on the current season? Like, you don't have to ask lore-related questions. What's the process behind voice acting for the gender bend episodes? The process behind voice acting for the gender bend episodes is, we kind of had some back and forth on this. We weren't really sure if we wanted to try and do a different cast for the characters in like an opposite gender scenario. The problem, if we did go with that route, which we didn't, would have been to cast all new characters for like 1 to 2 comics. And then the voice actors that we would have hired, we probably would not have used again for literally years. Because there aren't that many gender bend episodes. At least currently, that have been written or are in production. Does that mean that I'm never going to do gender bend again? No. I probably will. But not for a while. Because there's so many other possibilities. And I have more fun writing different scenarios for the characters than I do repeating the same scenario. So, like, we did a gender bend scenario. And I'm probably not going to do that again for a while. Right? Will I do it again? Sure. Will I do it again soon? No. So we decided to go with the actual voice actors. And the actual voice actors were learning how to, myself included, because again, I'm the voice of Seesaw. How to do, for me and Lemon, it was a feminization, right? For Thea, for our line voice actors, it was a masculinization. And again, the masculine one is going to be, it's a different comic than the feminine one for Seesaw and Lemon. Those are technically 2 different comics. But we were both learning how to feminize our voices. And actually, there's a question right at the beginning of the stream that was about just voice acting in general, and I talked a little bit about that at the beginning. I talked about learning how to do like a feminine voice, right? I'm not gonna reveal feminine Seesaw on stream because you get to hear that on Friday, and so I'm gonna save that for Friday. But if you want to hear me trying to do like a feminine voice, that was earlier in the stream. I'm going to save that for earlier in the stream. Yeah, I'm going to make you go back and watch it because viewer time. And I've already done it, so I don't feel bad about saying no to doing it again. Yeah. But, and it was a process, right? You have to kind of like lighten your pitch a little bit, right? You have to get a little higher. That sounded weird. But you have to lighten your pitch. There's other things you have to do too. But it is earlier in the stream, so I'm not going to show you the final result. But I remember, because Thea was the one leading me and Lemon through it. Lemon, by the way, is RJ, so me and RJ. Voice actor for Lemon. I can't believe I dared to sleep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you did that. How dare you? But me and RJ were working with Thea on it, and I remember, like, the comment that kept coming up was, do it like a Valley Girl to start, and then pull it back. And Valley Girl would be like, as if, whatever, right? So there was a part of the process that was just like Tully. And we dialed it back. It was just, oh my gosh, did you say that? Oh my god. I can't even. I'll do the Valley Girl stuff all day. It's funny. And she was like, he was like. Good times. We do have good times. Female Seesaw is a Valley Girl. He's not, which makes me tempted to try it. Okay. Fine. I'll do a little bit of Valley Girl Seesaw, and we're just gonna play with it, okay? First attempt. Unpracticed. Okay, so here's Seesaw. Oh my God, Margaret, I can't even believe you did that. What microphone do you use for voice acting? I will answer that in a second. Let me pull up an actual Seesaw comic, and I'm gonna do the Valley Girl version of that comic, because this is just, sounds like fun. And I like having fun. Okay. Okay, so I will actually do the line from the upcoming comic dub as a Valley Girl Seesaw. So the line, read normally, is, so all we do for this game is take turns designing outfits, model them, and vote for the best. So, as Valley Girl Seesaw. Okay, wait, I gotta establish myself. Establishing my base. Here is my base. I'm at my base. So, like, all we do for this game is take turns designing outfits, model them, and vote for, like, the best. God. Cursed. Cursed is the right answer. It is cursed. Oh my God. I can't even. Oh, boy. What microphone do you use? I'm gonna do a forbidden thing. I am going to walk into that corner there, grab the bike. I'm gonna grab the bike. I'm gonna grab the box, and then I'll just bring the box up, because quite frankly, I forget what the model number for this thing is. But it was a $250 mic. And I got it like 2 years ago. So this is the doodad. It is, according to the box, a WA-47 Junior FET condenser microphone. It requires phantom power. So what I will say about this mic, okay? It's a mic developed for singing. It's very good for that. But the mic has a requirement. If you can't do what I said in the beginning of the stream as a voice actor, which is project your voice, then no one's going to hear you on this microphone. Because this microphone is... How would I say this? You know, people tend to have a problem with the sensitivity of microphones. Oh my gosh, it's too sensitive. It's gonna like the audio is gonna clip immediately if I yell into this thing, right? Or if I even talk loud. No, this one is the opposite problem. You will not hear anything unless if you speak with the fullness of your diaphragm. I have this mic, the gain on it's turned way the heck up. Even in the program in OBS, right, for the stream, it's on 6 decibels above yeah, it's at 6 decibels above the, not threshold, what do you call it? Like, okay, my audio engineering expertise is failing me, but like 0 level, right? At kind of the natural level of the mic, 0 decibels, it is 6 decibels above that, and the gain's turned all the way up, and I'm still not clipping, and I'm speaking really loudly, if you can kind of tell by the way that my voice sounds. Isn't it a condenser mic? Yeah, it is, okay? And to be fair, you know, I know anybody who's familiar with mics, right? Dynamic microphone. You want a dynamic microphone when you're recording audio because, like, if you're a thinger, you want a dynamic mic. Not necessarily, okay? Dynamic mics are great for dynamic situations. Condenser mics are great for very specific situations where you set up the audio space, which this is a setup audio space, right? It's not, this mic does not need to be dynamic in the sense that it does not need to be able to do dynamic things. It doesn't need to be carried around, and I'm not going to walk back and forth on stage and carry this mic. I almost dropped the mic. I hit the stand with my knee. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. Hi, Yaga. But like, yeah, I'm not going to be moving around with the mic like this. So I don't need a dynamic mic. A condenser mic is actually better, specifically one that's designed for vocals, which this mic is designed for vocals. It's a condenser mic designed for vocals. The problem is it's designed for people who project. So if I'm not projecting, then you're not going to hear me. That's the problem with this mic. So, yeah, it's a condenser. There's nothing wrong with it being a condenser. My first voice acting microphone ever, which was not this one, was a condenser. It's a $50 condenser. It's actually pretty good for $50. Actually, you know what? Here, I'll give that mic, I'm trying to remember what that mic brand is. I will give that mic a shout out because bang for your buck, it's a good mic. Okay? It's not the best mic in the world. It's not a professional, like, oh, I'm a studio professional. It's not a studio professional mic, but it's a good mic. So I'm gonna pull it up. I think it's, no, I'm trying to remember. I can almost guarantee if I type in, oh, right, it's a Neewer. That's right, it's Neewer. So Neewer, Neewer microphone. Yeah, you can get this thing at like Guitar Center for $69 right now. You can get even cheaper ones for like $59, right? NW700. Yeah, it was an NW700. So I had a Neewer NW700. That was my first ever recording microphone. And by the way, Yaga, feel free to ask a question. It was a pretty good mic. It was a pretty good mic. For $50, definitely recommend. If you got $50, you know, you're not trying to spend money on a really like peak mic, but you want something that's going to sound good, and when you record in it, you're not going to hate the sound of the recording. Neewer. Really, like, you can do vocals on that thing and get away with it. Definitely. Definitely. And you're not going to be disappointed, I don't think. Like, even as an audio engineer, if somebody gave me vocals from a Neewer mic, I could work with that. I can turn that into a professional recording. It's not going to be the crispest recording, but you know what? You throw a compressor on it, use a little bit of Melodyne, no one's going to know. No one's going to know you recorded it with a $50 mic. Everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, that mic is awful. Bang for your buck, Chief. Hey, so what do you do with a mic that peaks? You didn't ask that question. I'm not going to answer that. What do you do with a mic that peaks? Like, easy peak. A couple of things. If you have the ability to turn the gain down, turn the gain down. Right then and there. Boom. When I see your question, I'll get to it next. But anyway, turn the gain down. If gain is not an option, if it's not something that you can control on your mic, then the next thing to do, okay, equip your recording environment with stuff that limits reverb, right? So like the cheapo option, right? The cheapo DIY option is to put a bunch of blankets around the room, and then after you've done that, what you can do is you can step away from the mic and kind of record a little bit far from it, and now there won't be any reverb, so you don't have to worry about the reverb coming into the mic, because when you get away from the mic, it's a lot easier to hear reverb. I don't know if you guys can hear it right now or not, but I'm away from my mic. You might be able... Do yourself it, yes. But you might be able to hear a little bit of reverb. My recording environment is not perfectly mute, but it's probably a lot better than some other people's. But step away from the mic, get the environment, and then you're going to sound a little quieter, and you shouldn't peak as much. Especially if you're yelling, back away from your mic. Okay? Even with this mic that is really good at handling yelling and hardly ever peaks, ever, right? The problem is usually that it's too soft. Sometimes I can peak on my recordings, right? Either I have the gain set a little high or whatever, or something like that. If I notice while I'm recording that I am peaking, because you should always be watching your audio waveform when you are recording. Sometimes my hot fix is to just back away from the mic a little bit, right? Like, rather than mess with the knobs, rather than change all of my settings, I just go, okay, I'm recording from here now. And that tends to work. So, right, sound, let's learn something real quick. Decibels, okay? Decibels are a logarithmic function. For those of you who are bad at math, what that means is that every little bit of distance away from your mic, sound decreases exponentially, okay? Not linearly. So it's not like a straight line of like, so I'm right here. Man, if I could pull my whiteboard from the corner, I'd pull my whiteboard and I'd draw this with my whiteboard, because I got markers and a whiteboard in the corner. Imagine with me, if you will, okay? Top right corner here. So, this right here, okay, this is volume, right, and distance. If I increase my distance, it doesn't go like this. It doesn't go like in a kind of like straight line. It doesn't go down like that. I can't draw a straight line with my finger. It doesn't go like that. Actually, sound, when you get away from the mic, goes like this. Right? So if I'm starting up in the corner here, and I'm tracing my line down to that corner, right? That's more or less a straight line. Sound is not like that. Sound, straight up in the corner. Okay? Further you get away from the mic, the more it decreases. Like, a lot. So, back away from your mic. Mess the gain, back away from your mic. Shouldn't peak. There you go. What inspired you to start L&L in general? A couple things. One, a friend literally asked me if I wanted to create a series. And I said, sure. And he said, by the way, it can't be anything you've already been working on. Which at that point I had been actually working on a lot of other stuff. So I had to start from scratch. So I was like, okay, fine. We can start from scratch. I'll make a series. I'll make, you know, just something fun. I had pretty much initially, right away, when I was left with the prompt of start it from scratch, make a thing, I wanted to do something that was predominantly related to children, children's media. I am noticing right now that everything is very, very red, and you know what? It's probably been red for the past hour, and I haven't paid attention to that. But what I'm gonna do, I'm sorry, ADD break. I gotta change the color of the room. It's bothering me now. I'm sorry for people who wanted me to finish that. I'll finish it in a second after my ADD break. Can't find my remote. Yeah, I know. It's been like that for a while, hasn't it? Come on. Work with me. Oh, now it's blue. Teal. Ew. Actually better. We'll do that one for a while. Oh, that's why. That I did have on at one point turned off for some reason. There we go. If I pull it under here. Check, check. All right, hey, there we go. I'm Ringo Starr. No, so I fixed it. I fixed it. But the only thing that I did not fix is, one, there is now a high-pitched ringing. Let me see, is there a high-pitched ringing? No, okay, it's just on my speakers. Hmm. That's interesting. Okay. Well, now there's a high-pitched ringing in my speakers. That's great. I'm glad you can hear me. And I'm glad you can't hear the ringing because it's not showing up on my mic, but it is bothering me, and I want to fix it. There we go. Let me... So I'm gonna try to fix my speakers here by just turning them off and back on. I know you guys can't hear it. It's bothering me though, and it's gonna keep distracting me if I don't do it. Okay, well I didn't fix it. I did a great job of not fixing the problem. Okay. Fixed it. Everything okay? No, everything's on fire right now. But it's fine. We'll deal with it. Okay. So, now let's talk about happens to the best of us. Yeah. It's God telling me to get off. Alright. I want to finish this question though. This is fine. Everything is fine here. How are you? What inspired you to start LNL? Can we finish the question now? What inspired me to start LNL? I was asked to by a friend. I wanted to do something with kids-related stuff. The reason I wanted to do kids-related stuff, finally, now I can answer this. I used to write a lot of darker, grittier things, okay? And I was like, well, if I'm going to write something new, I would prefer, and this is going to be like the first thing that people ever see that I make, I'd prefer it to be not as dark and not as gritty, and also, you know, stuff like, Has Been Hotel was coming out, and now in general, like the indie scene, the indie animation scene tends to be a lot more adult focused for a very understandable reason, because adults are the ones with the money, and so if you want to get money from people to make your show, you should appeal to the people who have the money, which is not the kids, it's the adults, right? So I wanted to do something that was going to be a little different, recognizably. People were going to be able to see it and say, hey, you know, this is not an adult show, it's a kid's show. And yeah, and so that was my reason for making Lime and Lemon specifically when I was offered to make any sort of show I wanted. As far as, you know, what is the inspiration for the story of Lime and Lemon? Well, when I decided I wanted to do a kids show, I decided, hey, it has to, even if it's not one of those kids shows that's like Dora the Explorer where it's teaching them things, it still needs to have a good moral, it needs to have a good lesson that is kid appropriate, kid friendly, and can be received by children. And so I decided Lime and Lemon should be like a show about board games and creativity, because I think one of the problems that we have with our current school system and school structure is the death of creativity. Schools are created like factories. They are made to create factory workers. They are not made to create creative individuals. This has been known for a while, and it has only been changing very, 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 very slowly. So we wanted to make a show that dealt with creativity, encouraged kids to be creative, to take the means in front of them and do something else with them. So we wanted a show that was focused on creativity, had kind of a message of like, be creative, be inspired. So yeah, that was that. Oh yeah, the hand shadow, because of this light here. Here, I will diffuse it. It is diffused now. My hand shadow is still a thing. I don't know if I can get rid of that unless I just don't mess with my hand. No, I'm very hand conscious. No shade. I don't know what shade means. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused by the question. Why did you make them furries? Okay. Side tangent. Only a couple of weeks ago did I find out that furries can literally refer to anthropomorphic characters. Originally, I am telling on myself here. This is my own stupidity. I thought furries were specifically people in fursuits and nothing else. And not just people in fursuits. People in fursuits who did weird things with those fursuits. So, thankfully, I've been educated since then, so I understand the question. And I understand that they are, in fact, technically furries. But had you asked me this a few weeks ago, I would have denied that. Because I'm stupid. So yeah, okay, they're furries. Whatever. Reason I did anthropomorphic characters, or furries. One, this is... So, like, I've written the premise for multiple series that I wanted to produce. And I've actually produced a couple of different series, mainly audio dramas. And out of all the things I've produced, apart from Lime and Lemon, there's only one other one that even deals with animals as a central character. I usually write humans. But I did anthropomorphic characters because they're fun for kids. Kids like furries, which I don't like that sentence. Kids like animal characters. Something about saying kids like furries is weird. I don't like that sentence. Even if it's technically accurate, I don't like that sentence. Kids like animal creatures. Pig goes oink, cow goes moo. It's fun. Kids like animals. So, that's really the reason. That's really the only reason. Could I have told the story with humans? Sure, absolutely. But it would have been less fun for kids. Lime being this cute little fox, okay, it works great for little ones. Little ones, like, they eat that up. So, yeah, the main reason is just kids. Now, there's a lot of fun things we can do with them being animals. Right? Like, admittedly, even though that was the original reason, it's not like the story now can be replaced with just humans, because I actually do use the animal aspect of the characters. Like, them being animals plays into some of the narrative. So it is very much like it's part of it's ingrained. It's not like they're just humans that they're like humans in every other sense, but they just look like animals. But yeah, it's animals mainly because kids. That was the whole reason. And I mean, also, like, one of the fun things to do with animal characters that's just really easy and obvious, regardless of how much you lean into the animal aspect of them, is that we tend to, like, if we think about a person as a type of animal, it tends to, like there is visual communication. Like, a fox character can be sneaky. A fox character can be, like, crafty, right? A fox character can almost have like a villainous aspect to them. Lime doesn't, but in general, right? Same thing, like, if we have a character that's like a hyena, right? If we had a hyena, ooh, that's like, the likelihood of us having a good guy hyena is a lot lower than us having a bad guy hyena, because a hyena, like mentally, the mental image there is like, ooh, that's a spooky character. And so, like, personalities kind of get attached to certain animals. And now why? So this question isn't asked, but I'm going to ask it. Why a fox and a tanuki? To be entirely honest, Lime was originally supposed to be a husky. I didn't like that. I made her a fox. How did I make her a fox? I went behind my partner's back, and he was like, I want you to make this character a husky. And I went behind his back, and I said to the artist, I said, make it a fox. And that's how we got Lime. Lime could have been a husky. I did not want her to be a husky. I thought a husky and a tanuki was weird. It's like, eh. So I said fox. And it worked out. Because in Japanese culture, in lore, okay? I'm not Japanese, by the way. Not at all. Foxes and tanukis are both considered shapeshifters. And what do Lime and Lemon do consistently with their imagination? They become different characters. They shapeshift. It works. It works so well. If you're Japanese. If you're not Japanese, it still works. But you don't get that cool part. So yeah. Wouldn't attaching certain personalities to kinds of animals be racist for anthros? Not exactly. So here's why. Okay? It would be racist, perhaps, or speciesist, right? Because they're not technically races; they're entire species. Would be speciesist, if the characters in the show were distinctly calling out these character conventions and stereotypes. Characters are saying absolutely nothing. Okay, so then who's being speciesist? The writers? Okay, sure, the writers. But the writers are also the ones making the universe? And also at the same time, we're using these animals to convey certain writing conventions? So you can kind of figure out what character is what? So really, we're not even doing it because it's like a race species thing. We're doing it to communicate the story in a more easy to understand way. And again, who are we communicating to as writers? Well, this is a children's show. We're communicating to children. So, using conventions, conventional, like, animal to people stereotypes, it helps flesh out the story. And is not racist because the characters, or speciesist, whatever, because the characters are not calling it out. The characters are not saying, like, oh, you're a fox, so you must be a bad guy, right? Now, Zootopia actually did do that, right? But we're not. the characters just are who they are, and them being an animal and kind of playing into that helps inform the story. It's not trying to be speciesist. Right now, alternatively, right, we can go down that route, right? What if people think negatively of Lime because she's a fox? Ooh, you're a fox, you're no good. Ew. Okay, well now we have a race developed story, right? Like, it's an allegory for racism. Okay, we could go that route. With a children's show, I don't really want to. Racism is an important issue, sure. But, you know, you pick your battles, and really, to be honest, I think there's so many shows that deal with social issues, and not that they're bad for dealing with social issues. Like, that's fine, that's good. But isn't it nice to just have a show that you don't have to worry about that? Like, I purposely try to avoid social issues when I write Lime and Lemon. Apart from, you know, maybe like very basic ones, like just very broad stroke ones. Because I just, like, I get tired of seeing it all the time. I think everybody else gets a little tired of seeing it all the time. And it's nice to have just like one show where you don't have to think about that sort of stuff or worry about it. I think, anyway. But yeah. You know, good question. Thank you for asking. I don't think any others even like that. Like, I mean, I'm fine with talking about the philosophy of Lime and Lemon. There's a lot of subconscious philosophical level stuff that goes on with how we've written the show, even though it's not stuff you're going to see in the comics, right? Necessarily. But yeah, no, like we've thought through some of these deeper questions. So I am happy to answer the deeper questions too. They don't bother me. I'm starting to not like the green now, though. Popcorn emoji. Ew. 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 That one's kind of fun. That one's not. No. No. Ew. 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 Why is the light green the only one that's even remotely palatable? Now it's evil. I can't do if I could do a good Darth Vader, because like this makes me think of like the lighting for like the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing where it's like, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. That's what it makes me think of. Okay, I'm getting annoying. There we go. That's like actually decent. There we go. I like that. That works better. Anything else? I will hang around for 20 more minutes, and then I'm probably going to get off. So, 20 more minutes for questions. If only I had a musical number to break into. I could sing like Shepherd of Fire from Avenged Sevenfold, except I would get copyright struck and taken down immediately. And I know that because I played Avenged Sevenfold once on a stream, on a different stream that wasn't Lime and Lemon related. And before the song finished, my entire stream was taken down. So I can't. And if I can't do it with Avenged Sevenfold, I'm not even going to try with Be Prepared in The Lion King or anything Disney. Just not going to happen. I don't got the rights to that stuff, and I'm not even going to try. All right. Anything else? I think we're having a good time. I'm happy to entertain for like 20 more minutes. How easy is it to actually get copyright striked by singing something on stream? Depending on said thing, pretty easy. AI. The AI technology that currently exists will recognize pretty immediately what you're singing, unless if you are so tone deaf that you can't sing it remotely in key or in pitch that it's not even obvious. But if you're a decent singer and or you have a backing track playing, it's going to recognize that right away. And it will copyright strike you immediately if the people of the owning the piece that you are singing really don't like you. They can take it down an entire stream. Like Avenged Sevenfold, whoever their like distributor, monitor person is on YouTube, they have it default set to anything that shows up with their stuff on it, immediately take it down. Like don't even copyright claim the video. No, take that down. You cannot have that. Annoying. Some stuff is actually you can get away with, right? Like it really depends on who you're messing with. Some people fine with just copyright claiming you. A lot of people actually fine with just copyright claiming you. British musicians, for some reason, tend to actually go a little deeper. Not that Avenged Sevenfold is British, they are American, but I've from experience, if you do a British song or a European song, you have a higher likelihood of getting the video struck. Yeah, I mean, my channel did not get taken down, but I got a strike. Really not fun. So, oh, by the way, YouTube Shorts is interesting because YouTube Shorts actually bypasses the copyright requirement. I don't know if that's for all songs, but it's been for all songs that I've seen on YouTube Shorts. So, like, if we play, like, for example, we have a short with Everlong in it, the song from Foo Fighters, and it's like, hey, you have a copyrighted piece of music, but it's a YouTube short, so we don't care. I don't know if that's true for everything, but it was at least true for Everlong, and that was nice. But on a standard YouTube video, anything more than 5 seconds, and they go, oh, copyright. So, yeah. If it's less than 5 seconds, they tend not to flag it. I guess what's been decided is 5 seconds or less of a song is not enough to get up in arms about. I'll make the rules. So. Also, that's not just true for music, that's true for visual media as well. So if you've ever seen, like, videos where, like, it's like, it's this scene, but I'm going to cut the scene every 5 seconds to be, like, different part of another scene or something. So that it's, like, all broken up and weird and confusing. That's why they do it. So that YouTube doesn't strike them. Because, I don't know, apparently playing with fire wasn't, playing with fire wasn't for them. Even though people will post, like, entire clips of just, like, random stuff all the time. "15 more minutes." Oh yeah, by the way, I have Darth Jar Jar. I'm boasting. I'm definitely boasting. This is a boast. I have Darth Jar Jar. And I have White Vader. Don't ask me why he looks like he's falling through a pit. I'm proud of those things. Darth Jar Jar. Yeah. Watch Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. On Disney Plus. Or pirate it, I don't care. Where'd you get that from? I have my secrets. It's really not that secret. You can easily find out where it's from. But if you hum a copyrighted song bashing a certain country, what would take you out faster? The spy in your walls or the YouTube copyright infringement AI? Depends on a couple of factors. 1, are you in the country you're bashing? 2, is the country you're bashing particularly sensitive about what you think about them? 3, how good's the AI? So, like, for example, China. I don't know. I don't know what that answer would be. I think actually China would probably... I think your YouTube channel would disappear, and about 5 minutes later, you would disappear. I get that impression from China. In America, no one would care. YouTube might care. Maybe, if the song is copyrighted. But otherwise, YouTube would not care. Countries in Europe. Depends. Some are very sensitive. Some are less sensitive. Most of them probably aren't going to kill you. But your whole presence would be erased from history. Yeah. Yeah. Tiananmen Square what? Who? Watch, YouTube would take me down for saying that, wouldn't it? It would not be safe for international audiences for me to say that. I'm sorry, you're no longer internationally appropriate. Yeah, exactly. Well, this video is gonna be blocked in China. We can be assured about that. Oh, man. Oh. I'm trying to decide how much of the story I want to tell. It is a funny story. I did a bad once, and I had a friend who was vacationing in China, and I was talking trash about China while he was in China, and he had said to me, before I had started saying anything, hey, you know, I got a VPN, and so that's how I'm able to kind of like bypass all of these Chinese systems and talk with the outside world. And he's like, I got a VPN on my phone, I got it on my computer, it's fine, right? I start talking trash about China. I don't hear from him again for the rest of his trip. He was perfectly fine, by the way. He came back, and we talked, and I was like, something happened to you in China? He was like, no, nothing happened. He was like, my VPN just stopped working after we talked. It was weird. And I was like, oh, okay. They didn't like that. But, so, in essence, if you visit China, if you think it's pretty, and you're like, I got a VPN, you know, I can stream movies, whatever, to talk crap about China. They don't mind. They're never gonna see it. Okay? Yes. China can see your VPN. They know that you have a VPN on, and they can still track you. So, yeah. You're not that secure. VPNs might be secure systems to an extent, but you versus the Chinese government wins. Bet you didn't think you'd hear that in a Lyman Lemon Q&A. Also, word of advice, when your friend's in China, just don't do that. What I did was stupid and could have got him in a lot more trouble than it did. He was lucky and I was lucky that that was the worst thing that happened to him on his trip. So don't do that to people. Not if you value their life. It was probably the dumbest thing I did. Any other questions? Preferably about Lyman Lemon, and not about VPNs, copyright strikes, or the Chinese government. L&L merch win. 10,000 subs minimum. Even then, that's probably when we're gonna start setting up said merch store, not when merch would actually be out and ready to go. Trust me though, I already have tons of merch ideas, and I have fiddled with the idea for a while, and I've Googled it, and we've done... It's on the mind. But it's not... Now's not the time. Nobody's really gonna purchase it, unfortunately. Even at 10,000, I kind of doubt that we'll have a lot of sales, but at least we have more of a following to justify than 1,000. 1,000's a big number. Not a big number for sales, though. Not a big merch sale number. Be right back, making 9K alternate accounts. Oh my gosh. You know, I actually did run a stream on one of my old YouTube channels that I'm pretty sure got flooded with bots just to get me to like 100 subscribers. I had weird people watching my channel. 10 more minutes, guys, and then I'm gonna hop off. Lime and lemon questions, please. How weird. Weird enough to make bots for a 100 subscriber YouTuber. That's how weird. Yeah, I know. I said lime and lemon questions. I answered yours, but I figured I could answer that quickly enough. I will sit here for an additional 9 minutes. I have no problem with that. Oh, if you wondered what that massive head movement was, you're just like, what the hell? I had a hiccup that I internalized. Will L&L get a full animated series or a book? Ideally and... yeah, ideally. So, we're working on both of those things. Animated series, we actually have more going on right now than the book. the book, I've been in talks with a couple of people who are author publishers. I am not, like, I'm a good writer. I'm not good at writing children's books yet. And so I've been kind of like looking for somebody to partner up with on that, who knows how to write children's books. And I've found someone, and I'm talking to them right now. And we're looking at doing some children's books. And we're also looking at doing a comic, like an actual official comic, not the little 6-panel newspaper style thing, but actual official comic, increased quality of art style, and those comics would be published as actual comics. So we're looking into all of that. Animated series, yeah. We have an animatic up. We have a pilot that the animator told me today they hope is finished by the end of the year. I do not have my hopes high for that. I would not put a deadline on that. But I would say that we're probably within a year for it to be completed. And by that I mean within 12 months. Oxit. Hi! Hey. Oxit, ask me 1 or 2 questions and I'll answer them. And we're about to end stream here because it's been 2 hours. And it's kind of late for me. So, but I am committed to answering your questions because you just got here. And I want to hear what you have to ask. Can you give me 1 word about your lore? Just 1 word. That's it. Okay. Mysterious. If I were to choose a more interesting word that basically conveys the exact same thing, I would choose enigmatic. But really, we were talking the same thing there. I'm not revealing any new information to you by giving you a second word. I don't think. I mean, an enigma is mysterious. It's also a little bit of misdirection involved, I guess, so mysterious plus. That'd be about it. You can ask another question. I can answer with more than 1 word, too. I'll wait for a second question. I'm fine with that. And I will go over the hour mark just to answer if I need to. That's fine. Mysterious Premium. Deluxe Edition. Pro Package. I'm waiting to see if Oxid says anything else. I'm curious. what do you think what do you think makes, okay, real quick, Oxet, is it makes it a good written story? So like, are we talking about lime and lemon, or is the it accidental, and it's what do you think makes a good written story? Just let me know if it's just makes or makes it, and I can answer that. But those would be two different questions, and I want to answer more online with what you're wanting an answer for. So makes it, like, what makes lime and lemon a good story, or makes a good story in general? I mean, I could answer both. I'm not against answering both, but I want to know firstly where you're at. What will make a good written story to you? I'm interpreting will as, or wheel as will. What will? So what would make a really good story to me? I would say a good story is something that you can do a good story in a ton of ways, but good story makes you value the journey more than the destination. When I think about not just how I've written Lime and Lemon, but like my favorite things to watch, to read, etc. Usually my least favorite part is the beginning and the ending. Point A and point B. Okay? That doesn't mean that they're bad parts. It doesn't mean that they're poorly written. But the journey is like the whole point of the story. The destination's the payoff, and we need that. We can't have a story without a destination. But I would always put the majority of my focus on the way the characters get to where they're going. And I think within that there's a lot of variables you can talk about. One thing that was told to me by my creative writing teacher that was just really helpful advice was, don't be afraid to give your characters obstacles, and also at the same time, don't give them an easy way out, right? So part of what we enjoy about the journeys with characters is when they find themselves at impasses and they don't get an easy way out. I used to be, when I was really early into writing, I used to be an escape rope author. You know, I would write my character into a tough situation, and then there was an escape rope, right? They just, they leave. The tough situation's gone. It doesn't matter anymore, right? It's a bailout. There was, nothing was learned, nothing was gained. They just escaped, right? And it's okay to have escape rope scenarios sometimes, but you have to understand that if you give your character an escape rope scenario, they're not learning anything, right? And by the way, I'm talking about escape rope scenario. Escape rope scenario does not have to mean like they're being chased by anyone, right? Like, let's talk about like what's going on in Lime and Lemon right now, okay? Lime is currently caught up with Seesaw, and look like some kind of she's looking into Lemon's background, right? Which she already understands from how she felt about it with Seesaw doing it to her, that this is an icky thing. But she's also tempted by it, and so she's engaging in this behavior that she knows is icky and she knows is wrong. To do an escape rope would be effectively either one, just like make her character so morally upright that she immediately just turns it down and doesn't deal with it. Another escape rope scenario is she does this whole thing to Lemon, and Lemon doesn't care. right? It's like Lemon finds out, and everything's okay, and you know, and then there's no development. So then what will happen, right? Well, without saying too much, Lime's and Nikki's scenario, right? And I think, you know, what would make that the most interesting? What's going to make that the most interesting is either case one, Lemon finds out and he's very displeased. Case two, maybe Lemon doesn't find out, but this relationship she has with Seesaw becomes something more devious or scary or interesting in some way, right? Like, we let the scenario go downhill more, basically, is what I'm getting at. Like, just let it keep digging. Don't escape rope. Don't ride escape ropes. Right? Make challenges for your characters and enjoy the journey. Don't I mean, know where the destination is. You should plan out your destination, but enjoy the journey. I think those are my bits of advice I would give. I could talk about stories all day, but I don't want to dig too deep into that, because I think everything with stories is a lot circumstantial. And yeah, I mean, you know, like, because you can write all kinds of stories. You can write stories where the villain is like sort of your protagonist, like Breaking Bad, right? And I mean, they follow the same conventions, right? We're paying attention to the journey more than the destination. I liked every episode of Breaking Bad before the ending, before we ever got, like, more than the ending itself. And the ending is not bad. Like, admittedly, it's a good ending. Walt gets everything he deserves in that, but the fun is all the episodes before the ending. You know, watching the rabbit hole go deeper and deeper and deeper, right? And Walt gets Walt doesn't ever get like a really easy escape. Like, he has to be creative and engineer his way out of situations, and a lot of times his engineering is not foolproof, and so things end up coming to bite him. And so, like, you think he got through the scenario, you think he got through unscathed, but he didn't, and it's going to come back, right? Yeah, those would be my tips. Don't ride escape ropes, and focus on the journey. Don't focus on the destination. Know your destination. Definitely know your destination. Focus on the journey. Okay, I'm going to head off. Thank you for those of you who did attend. Hopefully this was a fun 2 hours for you. And yeah, I mean, I had fun. Hopefully you had fun as well. Tell me something funny. I mean, fine. I can't think of anything funny. Ah! Paul Blart. I don't know. Do you have eggs? Do you have eggs? Have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for your support. Good night.